Okay, it's day 29.4, and just a couple of quick potpourri subjects today. First of all, I don't want to get into a this and that with Marcus Conte, but Marcus Conte is one of my favorite YouTube channels because he's just so much energy, and it reminds me of myself when I came to Washington D.C. about a year ago, or a little more, maybe 2 years ago, um, and and I love all the energy, and so that's why everyone's saying, why are you bothering with Marcus Conte, and you're a big channel and he's just starting out. I love the content, I love the energy, even though it's all negative toward me. I like the debate, and I like the forwardness, and I like all the energy. I guess that's the easiest way to say it. And I like to debate because good debate brings out the truth. So that is all good. And so he did a piece today about this pigeon, this dead pigeon. I guess these people do these wacky pigeon races, and where they have to make the pigeon fly 2,000 miles. Whichever pigeon gets home first wins. And he photographed this pigeon that had died, that had this kind of brace. It was kind of like, he made this like extended analogy of this pigeon was a slave. And I immediately thought of Cesar Sayoc, or say okay, meaning I say okay to all the Mavni recipients that I want to bring in to the United States from Caribbean islands. And I say okay, Sayoc, Cesar Sayoc, to girls I want to bring in to dance in my club, to dance in my strip club, my ultra strip club at Gun Road in Miami. And why is Cesar saying okay? Why is Cesar saying okay to Mabney applications? These are military applications with the email, 3 different emails of a university president. Why isn't the university president saying okay to those young ladies that are coming from the Caribbean islands, right? So I saw the dead pigeon, and I saw, it's kind of like an emotional thing, you see this dead pigeon, and I thought of these dead girls coming trying to get to America, trying to become a part of the United States, trying to become a part of the United States military, and then getting involved in this dancing and prostitution and being used, and then eventually potentially dying. And it reminded me very much of the 2 Saudi girls. If you don't know the story, the 2 Saudi girls come here 10 days ago, or they're here a total of about 10 days at the Saudi embassy, and who knows what's happening at the Saudi embassy. We know at the UAE embassy they Dumbo drop the girls, meaning they scopolamine them, and they're gang raped, right? As long as they sign a waiver form, that means they can be gang raped. We know that our ambassador to the UAE, Mr. Oteba, does that. We know he does it in New York. We know he does it in Washington, D.C. We know he does it in Los Angeles. We know he does it in Las Vegas. So apparently it's fair game all over the world, right? So I thought of the girls coming over from Saudi Arabia in the same way, and I hate journalism through a keyhole. Journalism through a keyhole that these girls were only here 10 days, which, when I know that's not true, I've got 50 pictures of her doing recording in Los Angeles. So I know she has an agent in Los Angeles. I know she has more of a developed life. And they're trying to make it look like these were asylum people that had come out of Saudi Arabia because they were so unhappy with MBS, the new crown prince, right? And so if they had to go back to Saudi Arabia, they were going to willingly put duct tape around their ankles and around their arms, and then jump into the Hudson and kill themselves. When I know she has a recording career in Los Angeles, when I see CNN lying, when I see the New York Post lying, when I see ABC News lying, not telling the whole story, when I see them sheltering the fact that this person was a go-between for Saudi Air and Saudi Freight, and he was in flight operations, and he has this very high-level contact with a U.S. Person in Chief of Staff in the United States Army, Odierny, I want to call bullshit. I want to say these girls are the dead pigeon. These girls are the dead pigeon that Marcus Conte so eloquently put out there. These girls are the ones that were flown thousands of miles, much like the pigeons that flew thousands of miles, only to die. And it's a very poetic thing. He is a rock poet. Marcus Conte is a rock poet. He may have captured the two girls that died. That, first of all, they didn't come here and were only in the United States 10 days, and they objected to MBS all of a sudden, and then they decided to throw themselves in the Hudson. No. The oldest girl, Rotana, was in Los Angeles. She had a recording contract. She was being used in Los Angeles. Again, this is a fallacy because of the poor reporting of CNN, ABC, New York Post. New York Times hasn't even covered it. The New York Times has not even touched this piece, right? This is why sometimes people say, why do you go off on just these corner case things, these murders, these girls? Nobody cares about these two girls getting murdered. I care about the two girls getting murdered. I care about the two girls getting murdered. I care about Task Force getting murdered. These two girls, especially the older girl, had gone to LA. She was doing a recording career. She had all these photos, all these websites and so forth, and she was murdered. To me, Marcus Conte did a perfect kind of, perfect symbolism piece on this dead pigeon that had been flown for sport, for someone else's sport, and had died. That's the two girls that were put in the Hudson. And I think that's all the girls that go into the Awans safe houses. All the kept women, all the kept women in the kept houses. How else do you leave a house and get stabbed and the person doesn't go to jail? There's nothing happens to the person. Imran stabs a girl in the stomach and there's no recourse. 3 beatings. That's why I do the 3 beatings. Nothing happens to Imran. So I want to say to Marcus Conte, thank you for the metaphor of the dead pigeon. It was meaningful. I thought of the Saudi girls. I thought of all of Imran's girls that he had threatened, and it was a beautiful piece. And as far as the diplomatic container is concerned, I'm not saying I'm a Customs and Border Patrol expert. I'm not portraying myself as that. But I will say that I did talk to 2 people in 2 intelligence services. One was Direction Générale Sécurité or Société Extérieure, DGSE. And the other one was Dutch intelligence. And I had gone to Belgium as well, and I had interviewed these folks. And they'd all pretty much said the same thing. If it's a Saudi diplomat, whatever, we don't touch it. They put a little lock on it. As long as they have an agent with it, a diplomatic agent going with the container, we don't touch it. Dilyana, this great reporter in Bulgaria, had done a piece that said Silkway Airlines, that the whole plane was diplomatic container. They could declare the whole plane diplomatic container. Nobody touches it. So I'm only going on stories that were given to me. If you are CIA, Maritime Special Activities Maritime Services, Club K, and you're using a Maersk or some other front company to ship your containers, that was also Merchant Marine, was also no checking. If you were involved with the FBI in DTRA, Defense Threat Reduction Agency, moving any kind of chemical weapons or moving any kind of nuclear, no touch, no touch, no touch. No Customs and Border Patrol. So again, I'm willing to have a dialogue. I never said I was an expert. By the way, the part that Marcus quoted about me where I said, in your basement journalism, was not about Marcus. Marcus, it gets out actually, which I really respect. I even said that in my last video. He went to the harbor, he showed the container ships, he explained how things are coming in and out of the harbor. That moves the ball forward. That's a good thing. It's the H.A. Goodmans. It's the H.A. Goodmans that are trolls in the basement. I was talking about H.A. Goodman. Those are the trolls that are in the basement that don't have any idea what they're talking about, and then yet can say, oh, well, even though Imran Awan makes backups of the DCCC and DNC servers every day of the week, and he's caught with a backpack with those hard drives, and he works at the DNC and he works at the DCCC, and he's going back and forth to NSA. Well, today, that day, you know, H.A. Goodman, in his all-presence, all-being, all-knowing Karnak state of mind, he can say those drives that I found at his house, at Imran's house, had nothing to do with the DNC, had nothing to do with the DCCC, even though there was 3 different intelligence agencies that thought it was important enough to come out to his house. Why would the DCCC, NCIS, and FBI come out to his house, and Capitol Police come out to his house, if it wasn't that? If it wasn't a backup of the DCCC and the DNC? Use your functioning, use your cognitive powers. Don't just sit in your basement and look at Sandy Koufax pictures and think, hey, I'm an expert now. I see Sandy Koufax was a lefty, and now I'm an expert in baseball. Get out of your basement, get out of your mother's basement, talk to people. And every time I go out, I talk to people. I talk to individuals involved here in the DC area. I've interviewed, I can't count how many DHS people, and no one has shot me down yet. Again, I'm open to somebody saying, you know what you're saying is wrong. But until then, until that day comes, I'm going to continue with the information that I have.